So this is a follow-up to We Don't Need No Stinking Patches, and this is an attempt to put together a timeline. I've actually worked one place in particular, a couple of places where we did this, and we got on a security cadence rather than the oh crap cadence where it's like, oh, there's a big bug out there, we need to fix it. And the patching was hidden from us. And like I said in this We Don't Need No Patches talk, the ideal way to do this to reduce the amount of patching you got to do is run in a serverless environment, run in a container environment. Well, I mean, it turns out if you're using containers, you have the same problem. Actually, containers actually added an extra level of complexity to our patching problems. So be that as it may, let's do the 3-month cadence. I'm assuming you could do, the goal here is to be no more than 3 months behind on patching. And the reality is it should probably be no more than 3 months behind on security fixes, right? And you actually would really like to get this down to 2 months, but it just turns out you got to be pretty dedicated. So let's pretend that we can make 3 months first. So the first thing we need to do is identify the CVEs, right? And identify the patches, and that's at the OS level, the image level, whatever other levels you've got. Could be firewalls, could be appliances, virtual appliances, because you're in the cloud, so you don't have any physical stuff. And it could be any of the libraries in any of the applications, right? So what I'm going to say is it takes you a week to identify what you think you're going to do. And there'll probably be two teams. Some team's going to be creating the company's base images, and the app teams are all going to be looking at their libraries. So let's say in week 2 of this quarterly process, both groups will start. What we're assuming is that it doesn't make sense for every team in the company to create their own VM and container base images. And you've got a team that knows how to do that. And they will start those in week 2, and the app teams in week 2 will pull in their binary dependencies. So this is usually at the beginning of a program increment, if you align it that way. And then you've got like 3 weeks, right, to actually get the libraries pulled into the application so you can figure out what you want to do there. And we're going to give the image teams 4 weeks to get their images built. And that's because in some ways theirs is more complicated and the audit testing isn't as good, right? So in week 5, the libs are ready. The app teams are pulling into their program increment. They're pulling in the updated libraries. We hope they have automated testing. In week 6, the images are pulled in from the central teams. They start deploying their application on the new images, and those have to be retested. And I like a little break in there because you'd like to know whether you had a library break or an image break. And sometimes building these images is kind of complicated, so we built 1 or 2 weeks slip into the schedule potentially, although we'd prefer not to. And then that gives us a week to start integrated testing. So we take a week to test the libs, we take a week to update the images, we take 2 weeks for integration tests on those, which really means the library test we should have had a whole month, but we're doing other stuff, so we're testing it as part of other stuff. And then in week 9, which is really the beginning of the 3rd month, we're ready to deploy. And the goal here is to make it where we are never more than 3 months old, right? And so we want to target the beginning of the 3rd month, because that way if we have any problem, we got a little bit of space baked in this, and also it means we might be able to do a better cadence. After week 11 here, which is 2 weeks before the end of the update period, we run reports and we verify which teams look like they're already compliant, right? We can go in and look at the images, either containers or, maybe even some of the cloud provider images. We look at the libraries. That's a little harder. Typically, that's done in the pre-deployment, right? We do that by scanning the binaries that are built in repositories. And so we verify the age, and that gives us 2 weeks to go and nag people. And hopefully by the end of the week 13, everybody's up to date. But I've worked places where we actually turn stuff off. Non-prod, if you were more than 3 months out of date, we just turned it off, right? And in prod, it was after 6 months, after 3 months, it basically got escalated to the VPs. So maybe I need to add that on this slide. But that's the net, right? So you can basically set up a cadence, set up a team to do the central image building, and then just bake it into every program increment that you're going to have to do an update. A binary update for any CVEs, and image updates, and you're going to redeploy every quarter, whether you've got business functions to deploy or not. And that's all I got. Have a great day.